Everyone, today is 27th of November 2025. This is the Business Intelligence lecture in Wirtschaftsinformatik. Today we will look at a topic called standardization of business communication. The topic we see today can be found in several of my publications and books. Basically, is the backbone of my first doctoral thesis. We create a business communication standard between people that allows business leaders to generate continuous improvement oriented networks. Okay, so the backbone, as I said, is like this. Imagine we have two individuals communicating in an organization, like one manager and his or her boss. Okay, one is the sender and one is the receiver, like in any communication. Okay, and in between we find a business standard communication protocol, okay, that connects the sender to the receiver. Okay, so the business standard communication protocol is called CPDNA. This stays for C stays for check, P for plan, D for do, and A for act. The sub N means that check, plan, do repeats n times until we finish with the act. Okay, so this is an evolution of classic PDCA cycles. Okay. Myself, I spent several years in Japan as business leader, and I learned the application of continuous improvement process, or also called CIP, so continuous improvement process, also called CIP, also called Kaizen. I mean, it has many names. Kaizen means Kai means continuous, and Zen means improvement. Okay. This is Japanese. And this is an evolution of it. You can find, as I said, in Amazon 2 books that if you want to continue looking for it. The one is called The Hoshinkanri Forest, which is the, let's say, the casual translation of my first doctoral thesis. And the second one is the Lean Brain Theory. In which I connect artificial intelligence, AI, with business intelligence. Okay, so these 2 books you can find. I think there are some copies in the library in the Hochschule, but I am not sure. Some time ago I gave them some copies, but I don't know if they keep them. Okay, so you can look at that. Anyway, we have a sender and a receiver. In our example, we will say the sender is the production manager. Okay, the production manager in one factory, and the receiver is the factory manager. Okay. So now pay attention, because every step is important. Okay, you have the video, you can play it many times, but just the sequence is important. So the sender is what we're going to call the process owner. Okay, this is important, the process owner, the person who owns the process and is responsible for the process. And the receiver is either the customer or the boss or hierarchical up ladder persona. Good, and this thing follows several steps. As I said, it's called CPDNA. So the thing we do is this is usually done on paper, so 1A3 format. And the thing we do is we divide this in the middle, okay? And then we divide again one middle in another middle, approximately. And then 1/4 in another middle. So we have basically this structure, okay? And we start with C, we continue with P, plan, we continue with D, do, and at some point we end up with A. But again, the sequence is important, okay? So if I ask this in the exam, you need to explain it exactly in this sequence, not in another sequence. Okay? So the first thing we ask, and we will use a different color for the questions. The first thing we ask here is how do we measure success? Okay, and this is asked by the customer or boss answered in the form of a KPI. Okay, so we measure success of the factory manager by measuring the I don't know, the cost per unit, of the production line. Okay. So this means here we depict one KPI, which is decided by the customer or by the boss. Let's say cost per unit, euros per unit. And here we take the time. Okay, so the second the thing we do here is I painted here with the questions are blue and the things we do are red. Okay, we measure the current state, and this is important. Okay, the current state. No, not what we plan, not what we would like to be. We measure the current state of the KPI. Okay? And in order to do so, we make a measurement. We go to the factory. We say, okay, our KPI is in this week, calendar week 41, the current state of the euros per unit is this. Okay, something like this. And this is the current state of the KPI. So far, any questions? So you need to understand that if like take soccer, okay, like football. You need to understand that if the KPI to measure success in soccer would be the number of successful passes in a game, then and not the number of goals or the number of scores, then Barcelona, Football Club Barcelona would be like having 25 Champions Leagues. But because we measure the number of goals, is Real Madrid having 15, okay, and not Barcelona. Okay, so depending on how you measure the KPI, you are going to drive the behavior of the sender, of the process owner. If you measure quality, you get a different behavior than if you measure cost. Okay, this is very important. The decision on the KPI, let's say 1, is going to influence the behavior of the process owner. Okay, super important. So the second thing we do when we once we have taken our current state of the KPI, the second thing we do is we ask the question, or the questions, who, what, how, when, and so on. You can ask in what sequence. You can ask as many questions as you want, but why? We don't ask why yet. So what we do in this second step is we paint the current state of the process. Okay. When you paint the current state of the process, what you do usually is you take, I mean, there are many ways to depict it. You can Google process description and you will get many ways. One way to do it is to put a list here of the process owners who touches the, so the first element here are process owners. When you have logistics, you have when you have production, you have logistics involved, taking the material from the warehouse, then delivering it, then you have your people working on it, then you have some rework going back, then you have some quality control in the end, and so on. Okay, so these are the process steps. This is what we called process steps. Okay, then we have some material flow. Maybe you have some rework, as I said. Then some material flow. Okay, this is the third element. And then you might have some information flow as well. Maybe you've heard of the word Kanban at some point in your studies. Okay, this is called information flow, and this is the fourth element. Okay, so you have 4 elements that are the basic elements. You can have more, okay? You can have also money flow or energy flow or whatever is important for you. But the important part here is that we make a description, detailed description of the current state of the process. Okay? So we have this. Is that cool? Any questions? Can you follow so far? So here we have the KPI, current state. We know that we are at a certain level. Then we describe the production process. And this is done by the process owner, of course. And then the third step is we make a quantifiable prioritization. We quantify what are the aspects playing an important role into the process. Okay. So, for instance, if we're talking about cost, we can look at the inventory after process. Okay, so if this is process step number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we can say, okay, what is the inventory level after process step number 1? Okay. After process step number 1, after process step number 2, after process step number 3, after process step number 4, and after process step number 5. So here we see that the process step number 4 has the biggest inventory after it, so it's like sort of a bottleneck is process step number 5. So, but here what we ask is, here we ask, where do I put it? Here we ask, third question, what is important? Okay. And what we do is a priority. I have done here a simple one-dimensional prioritization. There are many other methods, okay? Like you can use the clustering methods we have learned in this course. You can also use PCA. You can use many ways to find out what is the important aspect. I mean, the whole machine learning is about finding important aspects within data sets. Okay, so you can plug in any method that we have learned here. For the sake of simplicity, I'm just displaying a one-dimensional prioritization. So once we know that process step number 5 is the bottleneck and we have the most inventory before it, what we do is we ask the question, the crucial question, why? Okay. And what we do is an analysis. Okay. So there are many methods like root cause analysis. You can use 5 whys, you can use a bunch of things, okay? So here we say the top 1 priority is going to be right there on top. This is called Ishikawa analysis, also a Japanese guy. So what you do is basically you organize your ideas, you find out reasons why before the quality process there is a lot of inventory, maybe because there's a lot of rework or because there's a lot of I don't know, parts were waiting there for too long and they got rusted or whatever. Okay, so once you perform your root cause, let me write it. This is a root cause analysis. Root cause, we want to find out why we have that problem. Root cause analysis. Okay, once we find out why we have the problem, we continue. But this is the end of the phase plan. You have any questions? Everything is cool. I mean, it's impossible that I explain everything and you never have a question. It's just not possible, man. I cannot be that good. Yeah. Yeah. Ishikawa. Yeah. Ishikawa is fishbone, or I mean, it has many names. I just think it's cool if you learn. Look, Ishi. If you learn some Japanese, Ishi means Ishi means stone, and Kawa means river. Okay, so it's stone of the river or something like that. This is just the guy that invented it, but it's also called fishbone, or I don't know. Yeah. All right, so when we finish our analysis, our root cause analysis, then we go ahead and we say, okay, now we do something. Okay, so now what we do is we go ahead and we ask ourselves what to do. Okay, and what we do is we perform an action. Okay, so basically what we do is we go ahead and say, okay, we have an action, we defined what we are going to do, we decide who is going to be responsible for that and until when. Okay, so we define the action, in this case maybe implementing some artificial intelligence in the quality check, the quality control of our process. Once we implement it, okay, so we implement it, we go ahead in the next week and measure again the cost per unit associated to that week after implementation. Okay, so this is calendar week 42. As you see, we have gone better Okay, so minus something percent in the cost. Because the action has taken us to a better level, what we do is we integrate the action into the process. So whatever action we did, we ask ourselves, the question number 6 is this best practice? Like implementing artificial intelligence in the quality control? And then we say, yes, it's best practice because it helped us reduce 7% of our cost. Good. Then what we do is standardize. And now pay attention. To standardize means integrate the action. Let's say I will paint now a little circle here. Okay, this is the action. We integrate the action into the process. Okay, this is what it means, standardization. Let me write it down. Super important. Standardization means integrating best practice into the process. Okay? This is a definition of standardization. All right. So, any questions? Good. Then we have performed C, P, D. We eventually integrate that into the, perform again C, integrate that into the A, into the process. So P again, D, C, P, D, C, and so on and so forth. Until we, at some point, are going to have many actions that have been integrated into the process, and we have gotten so much better that we end up with a much better process. Okay? One question could be, okay, what if one action is not successful? Well, then it was a trial and error. We forget about it, we continue. Okay? Without any effort, we continue with our CPD, CPD, CPD until we have reached a plateau, until we don't want to invest $1 million in the next action because it's not profitable anymore. And then we go to the next KPI, we go to the next problem, not cost anymore, but quality, and so on. Okay? So, any questions? If I ask this in the exam, you need to give me exactly the same explanation, okay? So you need to paint one such picture and then explain it with prosa below the picture. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5, and 6, okay? This hour today is probably the most important hour in your whole course. Okay, this methodology is state of the art for business management. So it's probably one of the most important lectures you have received. Why? Because here you have one standard communication protocol you can implement at any level, at any organization, entry level. When you are managers, you can implement it, and you can plug in any machine learning or deep learning or artificial intelligence thing you have learned or you will learn, and get yourselves better in any process, in any organization, any fucking where. Okay? So this is super powerful. As I said, state of the art. You can implement it right away. You can also implement it to say, okay, I want to uh, reduce my weight. Okay, you can describe your process. You can do some uh, priority. You can do some analysis. You can make some actions. You can get better in reducing weight. You can use it to get better at learning. Okay, so you can implement it. You just map the process, make some analysis after the priority. You make some analysis, you take some action, and then you get better at learning. Just for you to know, I've been using this method for 30 years now, since I learned it in Japan, and it's gotten me 2 PhDs, 6 languages. I'm 3 times engineer, 2 times engineer. It's just you can reach anything you want with this. Okay, so make sure you understand it and integrate it into your skin. All right. Again, questions? Yeah. You want to explain what? Okay, 2 and 3. So you have your process, okay? You have gone through the factory and have taken the steps, okay? Through the process, you have mapped it, and you see that there is a problem with inventory because there is inventory here, 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 okay? So parts that are waiting to be further processed, and you decide the KPI that is going to prioritize is the inventory after each process, and then you measure the inventory that week after each process. So this step is the most difficult step in the whole process because it requires that you decide how you're going to prioritize, what is going to be important for you. Okay? So in that sense, it's a very good question because it's the most important and most difficult step from 2 to 3. Okay? When you want to, just imagine, you want to reduce weight, okay? You measure your weight here, you map your process every day, and then you can decide, okay, am I going to hit the intake of calories, okay? Are you there? So imagine you want to hit the intake of calories. This is a decision you make, but it could be also another decision would be, I am going to make more sport, right? Yes, you keep in mind you want to reduce the KPI of the check, and then you think about how am I going to get better? How could I get better? What do I need to change? What do I need to prioritize to get the check KPI better? Like your target KPI is what your boss is telling you. If you think in terms of soccer, the number of goals you score. Okay, good. Any more questions? It's a very good question. Yeah. Yeah. Please ask again. I don't get it. Yeah, you map the current state of the process, yes. Is that the question? You are mapping what you do in that production process, yeah. Or you are mapping what you do every week to in your daily life to get less weight, okay? Or you are mapping what you do when you're learning to get better learning or whatever, okay? So you're mapping your reality. You're mapping the real process. No. You can, it depends, okay? Processes have different frequencies, okay? This is also important. We will see that in the next lecture next week, okay? To play with the frequency is important. Different hierarchical levels at organizations have different frequencies. You cannot map a strategic process every week because it doesn't make sense, okay? So it changes. It's just time, okay? This is just an example. But in production, a week is a long time. You can even go to hours or minutes. Yeah, depends. We will integrate this into a strategic framework next week in the lecture. I totally recommend that next week you come to the lecture, to the faculty, okay? Because we see how to integrate this into a bigger strategic framework, and this is very useful. Okay, so this lecture is connected to the first lecture we saw in the semester. So you have it in the YouTube and GitHub, so you can look at it and connect and try to connect the dots, okay? And next week we see the strategic implementation or the strategic extension, which is related to the question of I don't know, Claudia, I think, which is also a very good question, okay? So Claudia, congratulations, 2 very good questions. The most important step is here, and the frequency is also crucial because it has to do with strategic approach. Okay, so any more questions? Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good question. No, not really. You cannot enforce, I cannot force you to trust me. That's why I'm saying it has to do with the first lecture. You remember, if you remember the first lecture, it was all about trust, okay? So I cannot force you to trust me, okay? You trust me or not, but it's your decision. It's like a gift you give me, okay? So when you are in an organization and you are, like, let's say, young and not so experienced, people will be skeptical about you because they don't know you, okay? So you need to borrow their trust with arguments, with being, like, very transparent, very clear, and always doing what you say you will do, and then people will slowly trust you. To give you an example of real life, you don't trust, like, any random guy that comes along and tells you, hey, come with me, let's go spend, I don't know, 1 week in Canary Islands, we two together in a hotel. If some random guy in the street would tell you this, you would probably say no thank you, because you don't know the guy, okay? So everything, almost anything that happens, if it happens because of trust. So you need to earn the trust, and this takes time. Okay, being solid, doing what you say you would do. If you do that consistently, people will start trusting you in time. Okay, this makes sense? Hello? Ja, ja, so, ich antworte auf Deutsch nochmal. Entschuldigung, der Schlüssel ist halt Vertrauen, okay? So, wenn du reingehst als Praktikant oder als Werkstudent in einem Laden, die Leute wissen nicht, ob sie sich einlassen können oder nicht, und deshalb lehnen sie es erstmal ab. Schauen wir mal, okay? Good. So, as I said, in my opinion, the most important 45 minutes you have spent in this year, okay? This concept is super powerful. It can help you achieve anything you want in life. You just need to be careful what you wish, because you will get it, okay? Anyway, okay, so I